What's your favorite scary movie?
Pat from Pop Culture with Pat, here with Andrea and Rye talking about the new upcoming horror film In a Violent Nature. Great to meet both you guys. Excited to talk about the film and thank you guys for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
You're very welcome. So to start things off, and we'll start with you, Andrea. As far as what kind of just initially drew you to In a Violent Nature in the first place?
Man, it's so different to any horror script I've read before. There's a lot of walking in it, which will make sense. People have seen it. Um, but there's a lot of freedom meeting Chris Nash, the director, and just talking with him and chatting about the script. He was very open about wanting it to be a collaboration. And I loved that. I love the idea of just bringing, I mean, as you should always bring yourself to the character, but he was just so open to collaborate and shift and adapt.
What about for you, Rye?
I've known Chris. I've known of him actually. I've known him that well for that long until we shot this. But I was aware of his work, and we kind of worked on some same projects, just kind of like by proxy of different friends and stuff. So when Shannon Hammer contacted me, and I already knew that they were shooting something, and I didn't know. I thought it was done, and then they contacted me and said that they had to reshoot some stuff, and then I found out further that they were going to reshoot the entire thing. And so that's kind of how I came on board. And I was just really excited because once I heard the concept of it and read the script and everything, I was just excited to do this thing with these people who are very talented and can pull off a lot of shit, and then to read the actual script and to see what they wanted to pull off. And I was like, wow, I wonder if this is actually going to all end up on screen. And it pretty much does. So yeah, it was I was excited the second I kind of got that opportunity.
And I'm curious for both of you guys too, and this time we'll start with you, Rye, as far as just what was your guys' relationship with the horror genre prior to working on this project?
I'm a big film geek in general, and I love horror. I've always been a horror geek from being a little kid to start reading Stephen King way before I probably should have, and seeing horror movies growing up in the neighborhood with a bunch of kids and an older brother. I got to sneak in to see stuff that I probably never should have seen until a certain age, but it made me love the genre and just fall in love with the special effects and everything involved with it. So yeah, I've been a big horror fan for a long time, and then I've had the opportunity over the years to be involved with a handful of some great horror films too that are just Canadian homegrown independent horror films. So I kind of got to kind of learn some things and work some things out that really helped me down the line with this role.
And what about for you, Andrea?
I wasn't that big of a horror fan, honestly, before starting this. I used to say I hated horror, which I don't. So I hope like people in the horror community don't come at me. But being on this project, I learned to appreciate it so much. And I've truly, truly fallen in love with horror. And I think there's something so special about there's just something so special about starting about the tropes and why they're used and diving deep into like the history behind all that and yeah, I love horror now.
I
I
always
do.
love to ask that question, especially when, you get someone that says like they weren't necessarily a big horror fan, and then, talking about a film like this, it's always funny to just kind of see like you guys like, yeah, I never really watched any films or anything like that, and then doing a
I
project like
know.
this where you just go like head first.
No, I love slashers now, which is like I did not think I ever would. When I was a kid, I was terrified of them, but now I've seen all the work that goes into making it and I mean our team behind this was just so goddamn incredible. Um
And they're really seeing like a resurgence right now. Like the past like couple years, you're starting to see a lot more slashers, which I love. It's probably like one of my favorite subgenres in the horror genre. And especially when you see a film like this where it's, a little bit different than just like your typical slasher film that comes out. That's always, exciting for everybody in the genre. So it's influenced by several different horror films, from the past, for sure. How did you approach playing Johnny Ryan? Did you look to any other horror icons as far as just how you wanted to maybe possibly portray him, how he moved, how he acted, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of the genre too, and going back to like the stuff that I saw growing up, I was a huge fan of Friday the 13th series, The Burning, Halloween, all the Halloweens, obviously, and then there's a whole bunch of smaller ones that kind of fall in the middle of a lot of those. The Prowler and Just Before Dawn. There's a whole bunch. But I mean, Chris didn't want to specifically copy any one in particular, and I didn't want to do that either. I kind of want to bring my own flavor to it. So it's kind of there's a lot of nods and a lot of respect given to kind of all the great ones. At least trying to in the way that Johnny is. But I think it's also the way that his body sort of looks like Jason Voorhees a little bit is. Yep. I think it's a direct. It's on purpose so that the audience can connect with exactly kind of where they're entering the story, what kind of character this is like. So that part is kind of like right there just to kind of get you into the film right from the get-go. And then the way that Johnny moves and what he does and everything is sort of a combination of a bunch of different elements and trying to do something a little new with it, but also something that's familiar at the same time. So yeah, I didn't try to steal anything or copy something, anything directly, but I was always a big fan of Nick Castle, how he played the Shape in Halloween and Kane Hodder, obviously. So like there's some little bits of them in there, but it's not like I tried to minimize that, and Chris didn't want that either too. So
yeah, no, and that makes sense. And for you, Andrea, where did you draw inspiration from as far as bringing Chris to life? Did you look to any women from the horror genre, any finding girls, things like that, where you wanted to kind of pull maybe little bits of like inspiration from? Or
I didn't before filming, actually. I think what was so awesome, like I mentioned before, and what Rye is saying, is Chris just wanted to really collaborate on it and make it as much of ourselves as we could. And I think also I just didn't want to, I wanted to make her my own and different and not be too influenced by any other final girls in other horror films. I think it was really there's something about Chris, which is the name of the character, where she has this like power to her, and she's very self-sufficient, I feel like, in a new way, like a different flavor of that. I feel like all final girls kind of have that, but she has a new flavor to it.
I definitely think she'll be, popular with the fans once everyone, finally gets to see this once it gets its wider release. And Rye, I'm curious because, whenever you have like a film like this where you have, like an iconic, killer, do you have like a favorite kill scene from the movie? Obviously, like don't go into, I guess, like maybe the specifics of who the characters are, but do you have a favorite one that kind of sticks out?
There's a few of them. There honestly is, and every time you watch each one, it's kind of each thing kind of has its own special kind of moment to it. But it's the one that I read in the script that I was like, all right, if they're gonna go full tilt and do this, it's gonna be people are gonna be talking about it, and of course, people are talking about it. It's we'll just call it the yoga death, or the cliff scene. And there's just a bunch. It's just so I don't want to ruin it for anybody. You just have to watch it.
Yep. No,
and that's pretty much. But it's a great scene. Like the special effects that were put in and the time that was put into that, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously seen a lot of horror fans or a lot of horror films throughout my life, and seeing that death scene play out, it's like whoa! Like when you see something that you've never seen really done before on that level and surprises you as a horror fan, you just have to kind of nod your head and be like, wow, I can't imagine like what went into filming, something like that. And Andrea, just as far as, can you talk about your experience of working with Laura Marie Taylor, what it was like to have her on the set, her coming from another iconic horror franchise with Friday the 13th?
It was so awesome to work with her. She's just this ball of sunshine. Working with her, it was such a delight. We just spent, I think it was quite quick actually. We spent maybe a day or two working together. But she was incredible, and it was really beautiful. I think either she mentioned it or Shannon, our producer, mentioned it, but she was like, it's kind of like she's passing down the torch of the final girl to you. And that's what makes it so special to watch on screen. And I really felt that when we were working together too. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was so cool to see her like pop up on the screen. So very, very exciting moment for any, horror fan in general. For both of you guys, just to kind of like wrap things up, what makes working, with director Chris Nash, what makes him stand out as a director for you guys?
He's a very tactile guy, so he's very hands on, and he can do what feels like anything. Like if something needs to be fixed on the spot, you'll just see him suddenly start doing what needs to be done, and he's very hands on, and on top of that, like well written and knows exactly what kind of film he's making. Which for something like this to work, you really kind of have all those pieces. You got to have them laid out ahead of time. So it's great to know that somebody working with somebody like that they're that prepared and they have everything kind of thought out or ready to fix.
And what about for you, Andrea?
He was so open to any ideas we had. Like I remember I would go up to him and be like, what do you like, should I do this? What do you think about this? And he'd be like, yeah, go for it. Like, let's just do it. And it was really, it was awesome. He's just super chill. So easy to get on with. He's, yeah, one of a kind for sure.
And that's so important, I think, to have, in an environment, especially something like this, doing like a horror film. And I imagine you definitely got to be, willing to kind of roll with the punches, especially like you said, Rye, with just the film, a lot of it having to get, reshot like it did. It's like obviously that can, and for an independent film like this, as well, too, I'm sure that
Mhm.
poses a big challenge to any, filmmaker. But Ryan, Andrea, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your time today. It was great talking to you. I can't wait for the rest of fans to get to check this out because it's definitely going to be, I think, one of the highlights for horror movies coming out this year. So thank you so much for your time today. It was great meeting both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Pat.
having us.